Hello, good evening, everybody. I wish you a very, very warm welcome to the opening of the Wellbeing Week 2021. And I'm so excited that we can have people in the audience here and that we also have people at home watching. We've selected a very inspirational speaker for you for tonight. So, warm welcome to Paul Ramakers.
It's Monday morning, and I give my kids one last hug before I drop them off at my ex place. And I make my way to work, and suddenly the message from last week, Friday, pops up in my mind. She said, "Keep a close eye to your phone." And I drive onto the highway, and I hear my phone rings, and I pick up, businesslike and distant as I normally do. But when I hang up, the message kicks in. I ask myself like a thousand questions. What have I done? I really gone too far. This is the next sacrifice that I made. I've just heard that I probably do not have long to live anymore. How will I tell my kids, 3 and 5 years old, that daddy will die? How can you tell this? How can I go to my parents and tell them like, hey, your son is going to die? It was terrible. And it took a while before I was able to restart my car and drove around trying to sort my thoughts a little bit. And I also thought like, hey, I don't want to be remembered the way I played this life, for the last 5 or probably even 10 years. How will my kids, if I pass away now, how will they remember me? Probably not even, the guy on the pictures, that would be their memory. But how will my parents remember me, I want this session to be kind of an interactive session, because if I only wanted to share my story, I would tape a video and you could all watch it at home. So I want to ask you, if you want to share it, if you want to share some, to just interrupt. But I want to ask you, have you ever thought about how you want to be remembered? Just take a moment to think about if something would happen to you, or probably if you would leave university in a couple of years, in a year or probably more years from now, how will your co-students remember you? What's important to you? Take some time to think about this. Yes. Oh, we have a mic, so everyone can hear it. Also, the people
I'm on
at
my
home.
way.
I've actually thought about this, and it's really cool to be able to think of okay, because it's like you live a life like a certain way, but then if you look at the end and you want to know, okay, what kind of life did I want to have lived that people knew me by? It's really powerful to be able to look through that lens of how do I want the people in my life to know me as, and how had I wanted to have lived my life.
Yeah.
It's really powerful, and I've done that, and I think it's a really just a powerful thing to do, because it you take more ownership of your life, and you're able to change certain attitudes that you have, or how you live. Yeah.
Do you want to share how you want to be remembered?
I just want for me to go after my dreams, and to live my best life with no fears, sort of just and to love more too, not be afraid to open my heart and to love, and just to be someone who is a source of positivity and stuff. I think, yeah, just to be a light to people.
Right. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Has anyone else ever thought about how you want to be remembered? I never did. When I at your age, I never thought about how I want to be remembered. There's someone else who want to share something.
Okay. I never talked into a mic before. Well, around this time last year, I read The Big Five for Life. I don't know if you know it, but it also makes you think about what your values are in life and like how you want to be remembered. And yeah, that really got me reflecting. So like I tried to go over it every few months and see whether my values are still the same and what I want to be remembered by. For example, I wrote down being kind to others and being of help and making an impact with the things I do, like whether it is while studying or while working, that I make sure that whatever I do, I feel like I'm making an impact and that I enjoy what I'm doing.
Nice. Thanks. I think no one wants to be remembered as the mother who was on Instagram when their kids needed them, right? But it happens, or the father who's never there, only on the Sundays or whatever. I wanted to be remembered while thinking about it as the father who is truly there for their kids. They're young, and I want to play a big role and a big part in their life. I want to have a good relationship with my kids so that we also meet once they are grown up and we have really a strong bond, like relationship, friendship together. I also want to be the friend who's there, who stick to his promises, who makes time for his friends and for his girlfriend too. And I want to be the son who is able to care ultimately for my parents, that they feel safe kind of leaving me alone in this place once they would pass away, and they supported me, and I will support them. And one thing they really learned me was that I am the owner of my life. Life is about making decisions, choose and accept all the consequences of your decision. And for me, it was kind of a trial and error in my when I was young, because I did a lot of things, and when I then was hitting the wall, then my parents were not there, to stop me, because they wanted me to hit the wall, but they were always behind the wall, to kind of catch me and to talk a little bit about what the little Paul did right and did wrong. So that was a very nice thing that they taught me. They call this internal locus of control. You also have external locus of control, and once you're internal locus of control minded, you believe that all your successes and all your failures are due to yourself. And this is how I live. I've never someone to blame or had the situation is someone else's. No, I got a situation, and that situation is mine now. If I ask for it or not, it's just mine, and I need to deal with it. And when I was young, I tried several things, and it was at the age of 25 that I found kind of my place. I started working for General Electric, GE, one of the largest American companies around there, and as a good American company, it's 200% rational. There are no emotions, or well, there are emotions, but it's only aggressiveness and all these kind of things, but the softer skills you probably don't need there. And it's all about making your numbers. There's no ceiling. You can work 24/7 if you want to. And I liked it. And in my first role, I was responsible for the procurement for the Benelux region, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. I had 40 million of budget, what I needed to control at the age of 25, and I felt really cool about it. I was kind of that alpha male, dressed up, and I went out there. And one of these 7 targets I had was to save 1 million euros that year. And I was focused, and I thought, I understand this game, it's be, do, have. who do I need to be? What do I need to have? What do I need to do in order to have what I want to have? You know, and I made sacrifices and things that did not contribute to reaching those 7 targets. Had to move. I had my to-don't list rather than I had my to-do list. You know, and I finished the year saving 1.2 million. And then it's not GE who says like, hey, well done. But they say, hey, if you can do 1.2, you can do 1.5. So next year's target was 1.5 million, and I beat it again. And you know, that is how my journey, my road to the Bell started. And the Bell for me was I wanted to be in the board of directors of GE at the age of 35. You know, I gave myself 10 to probably 15 years, and then I want to be in this board of directors at GE. And the Bell, you know, I always compare it with the Bell with wall climbing. It's hanging there, shiny, up in the air, and you have a long climb, a difficult climb, and then you're almost there, and you stretch, and you feel your fingertips are hitting the Bell, and then you smash it, and then you fall down again. And you've not really enjoyed the view out there of the Bell. You know, but I performed, and what I did is I wanted to go from bell to bell to bell, from promotion to promotion to promotion, or goal to goal to goal, how you want to call it, as fast as possible. And I wanted to like skip things. I want to climb the unclimbed trials, you know, in order to be there as fast as possible. And at the age of 30, yeah, I'm that old already, but at the age of 30, you know, I was responsible for the logistics for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for GE Healthcare. And we made these big MR and CT machines. I had 1,200 people in the team and 300 million of budget every year. And my ego got fat with power and money and status. You know, and my identity was my name tag on the business card, my job title. There was nothing left for me than just that. And everything what I did was focused on making my new promotion, you know, and I did it well, you know. All eyes were on me. I was in a big high potential program, how they call this. So on top of your role, you need to do several other interim roles in order to show that you're able and capable to be in the board of directors of GE. And you know, there was a moment in time that I made more than 100 flights a year. I was in 3 time zones in a month. You know, I slept 4 hours a night, and I was eating in hotels and restaurants, and it's good food, but it's not necessarily healthy, right? But I felt myself being the alpha male on the Lion's Rock. You know, no one could stop me. I was on the move, and I only wanted to do more and more and better and better. And my ego took over. You know, my heart was completely switched off. I didn't feel anything, and my ego was taking over. And I started to sell myself a lot of excuses, a lot of stupidity. You know, in 2013, my son Mitch, he got born, and in 2015, my daughter Faye. And there I told myself, yeah, you know, you're not good in cuddling kids, changing diapers, all these kind of things. That's something mother is by far better, and she's more caring than I am. And you know, I need to make my career. So what we do is I spend another 10 years making my career, and then, you know, I've hit that bell, and I will get that peaceful and easy life. And then, hey, my kids are at the age that they go to high school or that they leave primary school, and then daddy is there with his knowledge and his cultural experiences, and you know, they will love me and they will come to me in order to get all this knowledge from me. Well, and she thought different about it, of course. So we divorced, and I felt nothing. You know, I was on business trips doing negotiations for the company, and at the same time, you know, I had this hour in between with the mediator to negotiate about the divorce. And I felt nothing, and I bought myself a house here in Born, and in Limburg. And I thought like, hey, you can even focus more on your career than now you have your kids just once in 2 weeks, a weekend, and all the rest you can focus on your career. And when your kids are there, you can really focus on them, you know, you switch off your phone and you're really there for them. But that obviously didn't happen, right? And that was where we were just talking about. Does your behavior really contribute to the way you want to be remembered? You know, because we thought about like, hey, I want to be remembered in the way I just described. I wanted to be there for my kids when they really need me. I want to be there for my parents, you know, I want to just be present. But I screwed up, you know, I was not there. I was focusing on myself, on my career, and the ego was telling me what to do rather than listening to my heart. So, for those who know how they want to be remembered, do you feel like your actions, your decisions will support this? Who would say, yes, I live exactly the way I want to live, and if I would die tomorrow, everything will be fine? Cool. 3, 4, yeah? You want to say something about it, or you feel just like you're okay? Okay. Okay. It would be sad for the people at home if she would die tomorrow. It would be sad, but also cool. I don't know if dying will be cool, but it will definitely be sad, obviously. But that's great. If you really live the way you want to live, I mean, that's great. I did not, because I wanted to be with my parents from time to time, and I wanted to be with my friends, and definitely I want to be with my kids. But none of that, you know, I was flying around collecting air miles, and I was feeling really cool, you know, because I meant something, and the status was what I had on my business card. And yeah, tomorrow or next week or in a month or in a quarter, in a year, well, my kids will still be there, you know, and I will be able to kind of correct all of this. I didn't even feel it like that, but then I will make it, you know, and that would be once I had reached this bell, what I called the board of directors at GE. But I also felt like the divorce, you know, my heart started to speak louder, and my ego was pushing harder, you know, because who am I without this job title? And no one else outside of General Electric will know my value. I'm 30 years old. I have 300 million of budget. I have a great salary. If I would stop, you know, and go to a local company, no one would be able to kind of value who I am. You know, my golden cage is built, and I cannot leave it. And more excuses would then come my way. But I also felt like I started to become a little bit tired, you know, and I bought this house, and then at GE we did one of the largest projects we've done for years. We were going to merge 10 of our warehouse operations into one large warehouse in Frankfurt. Project Frankfurt started. You know, a 100,000 square meter warehouse, and we were going to close all of the rest. So many people impacted, many sales departments were involved into that, and I was kind of influencing that we should move to Frankfurt. And I thought, hey, I'm going to execute this project myself. Then I can get some new breath, and I still have sight on the bell because it's like a prestige project we have, and you know, it's good for me to focus just on one thing for now. And you know, I don't have to travel that much anymore, or I don't have to travel by air that often, by airplane. I decided this is driving distance. Frankfurt, 300 kilometers, single trip. This is driving distance. And 2-3 times a week I drove back and forward to Frankfurt. And every time I drove, I had a sore feeling, sore muscle in my right lower leg. And it disappeared after a day. And 4 months later, it disappeared after 2 days. And after a year, it did not even disappear. And after 1.5 years, it really hurt it badly, and I had like a thickening on it as well. But hey, what comes naturally goes naturally, right? You don't have to see a doctor that often in your life. Normally then when there is some more peaceful periods in your life, you recover and everything will be fine. So put a big blanket around it. It's non-existing. I just focus on my career, and once that warehouse is implemented, and I still feel it after a couple of months, I go to the doctor. But after 1.5 years, that thickening got thicker and thicker, and I got more and more pain. When I woke up in the morning, I couldn't even stand on it. So I went to the doctor, and we did some investigations there, and it turned out to be a calcified bruise in my leg. So something or someone hit it, and it was not recovered well. It calcified. But she said, it bothers you, so let's have it removed. And on a Friday, I go to the hospital in Sittard, and I go to a scan. It was not a GE one. That was where my mind was focusing on. It was a Philips machine. And afterwards, the diagnosis was right, so the machines do work, a little bit less than the GE ones, but they still work. And after the scan, they performed an X-ray as well. It was not on my list, but as naive as I was, I thought, okay, let's do it. And I did that, and I dressed up, and then the radiologist, she came and she said, keep a close eye to your phone, because they're going to call you for the diagnosis. I said, you don't have to call me. I have an appointment in 2 weeks. I will hear what's going on in 2 weeks, and then we make a kind of a plan, and we solve it. Then she told this to me for the 4th time. And I thought, okay, there's something not right here. So I said, okay. I leave home, and it was my weekend with the kids, so I picked up my kids, and during the weekend I thought for them it's super special, but I'm used to a lot of challenges, so for me it's okay. But there was also a voice in my head telling me this is not right. And then on Monday morning, I dropped my kids at my ex. I gave them one last hug, and I suddenly think about this message. She said, keep a close eye to your phone. And I drive onto the highway, and I hear my phone rings, and it's the doctor. And he said, Mr. Amakus, please park your car, because I hear you're driving, and because we need to have an important discussion. I said, no, I'm fine, so please talk. And he said, please park the car, because we need to have an important discussion. And I parked my car next to the road, and he said, we made a slight mistake. You don't have a calcified bruise in your lower leg, but there is a cancer tumor measuring 20 by 5 centimeters in your right lower leg. And I want to see you tomorrow and Wednesday for some further diagnostics in order to increase your chance to recover, your chance of not dying. And I said, okay, we're going to do it. What time do we need to be there? I was still in this business mindset, so I said, we'll be there. And then I hang up, and the first thing I thought was, I've gone too far. I will not have any time to correct what I've done. How do I want to be remembered? That's certainly not the way I behaved for the last couple of years. And now someone tells me that I probably don't have time anymore to correct all of this. How will I tell a 3 and a 5-year-old kid that daddy will die? No, they will not even remember me. I mean, when I step out of their lives at that age, I will be the guy on the pictures, Is that what I wanted? Is my career that valuable that also this happened? It was terrible. And I also felt immediately like I'm all alone. I have no one left, I didn't need my friends once I was making a career, because they did not understand where I was working on. And now I have something who's there for me, you know? I didn't saw my parents for a long time, and they love me, and I went there, and everything is okay. But at that moment, I was completely alone. And I just hoped that I had time to correct things. So I did not go to my kids. I went to, because I didn't know what to tell them, you know. Will I die or not? Or do I even tell them that I have cancer, and what does it then mean? And let's first do these investigations, examinations on the Tuesday and on the Wednesday, and then go to them. And I went to my parents, obviously, and it was very hard to tell them what happened, because I was the person who always guided others through stormy periods, you know, or we had reorganizations at work, and I was the person who had the answers. And suddenly, I became the person who had no answers at all. And I was kind of dependent on something outside of myself and on the advice my parents could give me, if they could give me any, because they had the exact same information as I had. It was terrible. And the Tuesday and the Wednesday, I did these examinations, and in the Wednesday, after these further scans, I took a walk along the River Maas, and I wrote something down for myself what I want to read to you, but I translated it into English, so that's why it's on such a paper. But I wrote, Mr. Ramakas, please stop your car next to the road. We have an important conversation to have. You have a cancerous tumor measuring 20 by 5.5 centimeters in your lower leg. And suddenly, I realized how pointless a title on my business card is when you're told you might not have long to live. Suddenly, I realized how valuable a real, warm, and loving relationship with my children is. And suddenly, I understand that life is about something completely different than I was focusing on. Suddenly, this goal completely disappears. The message hits hard, and the confrontation with my choices in the past makes me realize that I want to do things differently from now on. But I'm afraid I don't have time for that anymore. Yesterday, I received a phone call, and I'm taking a long walk along the Maas. I was at the helm of my own life, in control, and always deciding which course to take. But suddenly, I'm out of control. I've lost the overview. What's going to happen? Have I really gone too far? And how do I suppose to tell this to my kids? Would there still be a chance that I could live on? And I want to know my fate. I want to know where I stand. And it's foggy in my head, and I can't see a hand in front of my eyes, and I can't get clarity about the possible outcomes. I walk along the Maas all alone and realize how fragile life is. Like the water through this river, it's a coming and going of thoughts, of currents, of opinions, of expressions, of phases or situations, of global crisis and prosperity, and probably of humanity in general. Am I like the flow in the river, and is it now my time to flow on towards the unknown? I didn't know where I end up, but I decide to accept, to go with the flow, and be guided by what feels right at the time. I realize I can steer a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right, somewhat, to choose my route downstream. All because I realize that swimming upstream will be impossible. It was super painful, you know, this week full of uncertainty, not knowing what way to go, but I decided that this was outside of my control. And I decided that I could make my decisions only based upon what will happen in the coming days. And I should only get my results next week, Tuesday. Another weekend full of uncertainty. I cannot manage it. So I called the doctor on the Friday. And there I asked, like, hey, are my results already in? And he says, yeah, one of these results is not in yet, but once the cancer should spread, it should spread into my lungs. And I can tell you that there are no metastases. So at that moment of time, I felt such a big relief, and I thought, okay, what's now the worst thing that can happen? Apparently, it's only in my leg. There's cancer in my body, but it was there for 1.5 years, and it's concentrated in my leg, and my lungs are still clean, and I hope that I now have time to correct what I've done wrong. And I was full of this life energy and full of all the positivity there, and I felt like my second youth kind of started right at that phone call. And I asked him, hey, what's the worst thing that can happen now? He said, yeah, the worst thing is that we're going to amputate your leg because it's large, it's 20 by 5 centimeters, and we need 5 centimeters of this healthy flesh, so my leg was not that big, obviously. So that would be the worst thing that can happen. But he said, I've done my how you call this traineeship, co-ship there at the hospital in Groningen, and they have a special chemo treatment. I want you to go there. So the next week I went there with my parents again, and I needed to see Dr. Been. So for those who speak Dutch, it's Dr. Lag. So I found this kind of, I think they did this a little bit on purpose, but anyways, no. And I had I had a very nice conversation with this doctor, and he, there was something they could try. He said, we can put a lot of chemo just in your leg, and then we need to wait 8 weeks to see if it works. We will remove 2 of the 3 veins in your right lower leg, and we will remove 1 bone in your leg. So it means you get another disability, and most likely in 10 to 15 years from now, you will need to be amputated as well. And then I'm 50, so how will I recover and rehabilitate when you're 50? And it was there that I decided to have my leg amputated. I felt this need to be radical. I'm not going to wait 8 weeks because I think psychologically I would not be able to do this. So I told him, no, I'm going to amputate my leg. Then the cancer is out of my body, and I need this kind of life lesson. If they gave me something small, I've probably not been here. I would not have this story, of course, as well. But I would died, I think, or I was still working in GE and feeling unhappy. So it needed to be something radical. And on the way back to Groningen, I called my doctor, and I told him, and suddenly I hear myself a lot harder, so I hope it's still okay for you. I heard that, or I called the doctor and I told him, no, I go for an amputation. And he said, okay, then we're going to plan it. And we came back here in the beautiful Limburg, and I was walking the exact same route than I did a week before. And there I wrote a small part as well, what I also want to share with you. It says, beginning of this week, I didn't know that a fog would lift and the view would be unbelievably beautiful. But after the message that there are no metastases, I'm in a new place in my life. I'm in a new place with different views, and start to realize that the message from a couple of days ago is the all-changing one. I feel my body is filled with new life energy, and I cannot wait to start my new life. I'm nervous, but excited at the same time. I will not fight this inevitable change. I will embrace it, because only it will work for me, because then it will work for me instead of that it will work against me. Own the situation. It's yours now. And I'm alive, and the message hits hard. And the confrontation with my choices in the past makes me realize that I want to do things differently from now on. I was afraid I would run out of time, but I will fight with everything I have to get this time. And now I go to my kids. So that was the moment I stepped into my car and drove to my ex place. And we were sitting there on the kitchen table, and I said, still difficult, like, hey, Daddy has cancer. And we are going to amputate my leg. And it was Mitch, he was 5, and he said, hey, Daddy, is it just in your leg, or is it in your whole body? And I said, no, it's just in my leg. I said, oh, then you will not die. And it was done, you know. You say, okay. But for me, these words were like an anchor, you know. He said, you will not die. I will have time to correct everything I've done wrong in my perspective, you know. And these words from a child meant so much to me. But yeah, you know, in science, you're all in university, it's not right, because there will still be some cancer cells in my body, and I know. But for me, that was important, you know. You're not going to die. I had 2 weeks. 2 weeks between the message I've heard that I have cancer and my amputation. One thing I did in these 2 weeks is I quit my job. Because I didn't want to have to do anything with that anymore, you know. I said, I'm out here. Game over. But I felt that I won, you know. But anyways, and they were very helpful and understandable and very kind, and nothing against them. And in those 2 weeks, I did things that I thought probably it will take a while before I'm able to do this. So I visited my old friends, and we went go-karting, because I thought, like, and I've never tried it. It's now 2.5 years ago. I never tried it after, but I thought this is difficult, so let's try this. I went mountain biking with Mitch and with my father, and yeah, it was a beautiful trip in Maasmechelen in Belgium. We did a very nice cycling trip with the 3 of us, because I thought I will never be able to do mountain biking again. You know, on a normal cycle, probably yes, but in the mountains with a prothese, I don't know. By the way, I also Googled a lot of things you can do with protheses, with prosthetics. And I saw on YouTube videos of people with 2 protheses doing things I could not even do with 2 healthy legs. So I thought, if there is, you know, if you really want to do something, there is still a possibility. If you can just go for it, be do have. I'm used to setting targets for myself and separating all the rest from it. So if you really want to, I mean, there is still a chance. But I wanted that easy life, so I thought, probably I'm not going to try it anymore. So I did mountain biking, and I made imprints of my right foot, 3 of them. So I made one of the back of it, one of the mid-stand, and one of the toes. It's my right foot, so that is, you know, it means something to me, obviously. It's also the way you unroll your foot when you walk, you know, and I had to learn this tirelessly in rehabilitation afterwards. If you want to know theoretically, you know, how you can walk correct, it has been told to me. I cannot do it, but they try to let you walk the way it's meant to walk. And that was the way you walk, you know, from your heel to your mid-stand to your toes, and then your next foot. But it's also the 3 phases of accepting change. You know, you chop in the sand, your heels are in the sand. I don't want this. I do not get along with it. I don't have any facts behind it, but it doesn't feel right. I just don't do it. You know, and then after a while, you go to your mid-stand. There's more balance. You start to look around. You start to talk to people. You start to read about it. You become a little bit more factual. And once you're ready, you go to your toes and you jump into the change, into your new life. I'm always on my toes. I want to do new things, and I'm fast, and I'm ambitious, and once I have discussions now with people, they didn't go the way I thought they should go. I stare at these 3 imprints and I think like, hey, I'm in that stage again. I'm always on my toes and I see the opportunities and I go after it. But probably someone is still on the heels, or is trying to get some facts around making a decision, and I'm pushing him already to make a decision. So these imprints, they really help me balancing things a little bit more. So I made those imprints. And then on the 19th of February 2019, I'm in the back of the car of my mom and dad, feeling like a little kid, and they bring me to the hospital because my surgery is there. But I'm full of energy. I want to have this done as fast as possible, and I want to start my life. I'm excited for this, but I'm nervous as well. But nothing can stop me because I heard that I can start over. And I called the 19th of February 2019 the first day of my new life. And I can do everything different compared from the day before. The only person I need to convince and the only person who need to agree with me, that's me and no one else. So I was ready for it. And I go to this preparation room and have a discussion. It felt like I'm on drugs or whatever. And I had this discussion with the nurse, and she was preparing me for the surgery. And I go to the surgery, and they bring me to sleep. And then I wake up. It felt like I'm jumping out of a swimming pool or something like this, and I try to sit straight, and it hurts terribly, so I lay down, and I immediately realize why I was in the hospital. Because what I forgot to say is I went to this anesthesiast, and I said, I want to have like a local, how would you call this? That they, just a local thing instead of that you go to sleep completely. But it was not human, he said, so he convinced me that I should do this. But because I was afraid that I would not know why I was in that hospital. But I woke up and I tried to sit straight and I lay down again and I watched the silhouette of the blanket and I see my body changed, but I also feel like, hey, I'm okay. So it didn't took long, and then I go to my room and my doctor comes and he says like, hey, what have you done in this preparation room? I said, no, nothing. I just talked with this lady. And he said, well, before you were in the surgery room, they called me and he said, when Mr. Ramakas wakes up, not if, but when, we need to have some psychological support for him because he's so positive, he doesn't know what's going on. And I started to laugh, and my doctor started to laugh as well because he knew me for 2 weeks. And I was full of energy, but I told him as well, what's the reason I should be sad? I will see my kids growing up. My kids will see me. I can correct everything that I've done wrong, so nothing to be sad about. And don't get me wrong, because an amputation afterwards, it meant something. It's just a part of your body that will basically die. And I said goodbye to it as well the day before the surgery. It was a lovely moment together with Mitch and Faye, and Mitch was worried that they would amputate the wrong leg because you cannot really see it. I said, how does it work? And I said, yeah, but they mark it and I need to mark it as well. And don't worry, he's a thinker. And he grabbed 2 markers and I colored my whole leg, to help the doctor. And we made pictures of it, and we were grateful. We all look 100 times in the mirror if our hair is looking great, if our face is okay. We wash our hands, certainly now in COVID times, like 200 times a day. But our legs and our feet, they carry us all the way our entire life. And well, I never really thank them for being there. It's normal. If you're a leg, you're just there and you just work. You don't need all these appraisals that other parts of your body will get. But after a week in the hospital, by the way, it took 1.5 hours. I was shocked, but and then my doctor said the all-time record is 21 minutes, so it's like a guillotine, how they call this, and it's done. And after a week, I went to Adelante, a rehabilitation clinic here in Hoensbroek, and I was full of energy. I was in a wheelchair and I was drifting around in these corridors, and I got noticed because I was very positive. I owned the situation, but there were a lot of victims there. Someone or something did something to them, and they expect that someone else will solve their problem. And the building was not right, and the food was not right, and the therapist was not right, and the exercises they needed to do were not right, and the food was not right. Nothing was right. And I was there like, this happened to me, and the therapist didn't ask for it as well, right? I didn't ask for it, but they gave it to me like, hey, here's a present, it's yours, have fun. So you can better own it, you can better embrace the change, because then, literally in my case, you make steps forward. If you start to fight against an inevitable change, you will burn down, and it will not help you. But it is difficult, right? Because those people paralyzed or losing a leg, and they're sitting there with all their worries and all their disappointment, and there is this young guy who's drifting around in a corridor, and he thinks that life just started, and he's on another planet, and whatever. But I started to connect and to talk to these people, and we had some very nice conversations there, and there were even people who I didn't even saw came to me and said like, hey, thanks for being there, because I'm going home now, but looking at you gave me a lot of energy to continue to fight. So I said, oh, thank you. I've not seen them, but that was great. And I felt like, hey, I'm able to connect to people. We don't talk about money, or we talk about all these kind of things I used to talk about, but we talk from human to human, and it feels so great. Give more love than it's only factual. That's something that I really enjoyed. And I was tired, there was not much strength in my body anymore after a week of hospital. And I needed to start walking on sticks, because when my prosthesis should be in the repair center, I walk on sticks. It never happened, by the way, as well. But anyways, I needed to train this, and it made me tired. So the next day I thought, hey, what makes me tired makes me stronger as well. So I started to walk on sticks, and then my physiotherapist came by and said, hey, what are you doing? I said, what makes me tired makes me stronger, and I was just training a little bit. I want to be out here as fast as possible and start to live my new life. And she said, well, a human is not made to walk on sticks, but I have something else for you. And she said, she took me to another room. By the way, never do this, because when you're in a wheelchair, I sat in a wheelchair and she started pushing me. It feels like when you walk and someone's just suddenly picking you up and say, oh, we go this way. They take your wheelchair and they say, okay, and they drove me to another room. And she said, have you ever heard about the handbike battle in het Kaunertal in Austria? I said, I've never heard about a handbike, so I don't know what a handbike battle is. Well, apparently it was a bike you control with your arms. You push forward with your arms, you steer with it to the left and to the right. And the handbike battle is in Kaunertal in Austria, 20 kilometers, 1,000 height meters, so 8-9% climb, that's 5 kilometers flat. We have 6 weeks, 7 weeks before we go there. And all the rest, 120 competitors, they're already training for years, and some of them are training for a year from other rehabilitation clinics, and all the rest is training for years. Do you want to join us? And I thought, wow, you must be really crazy to do this, right? So I immediately signed in, and I said, okay, I will do this. I started to train. I started to go buy my bicycle. By the way, by crowdfunding, so talking about love, I had a crowdfunding action page back then. I needed to have 10,000 euros. And it took 2 days before I had 17. So it was amazing. I was really, I never used to that people give things for free, right? It was always negotiation in my work, and then that happened. It was great. And in June, so 4 months after my surgery, we went to Austria. And at the start, I thought, Paul, you've worked for it for 7 weeks. You're a winner. Have faith in your own body. You will not start to enjoy the view, the beautiful view out there, will you? You will just go for the gold medal, isn't it? And I thought, oh, okay. So that was that voice again. And we were shot up to the mountain, and then 2 hours and 15 minutes later, I finished, and I turned out to be second. So I thought, oh, okay, with only 6 weeks of preparation time and with all these 120 competitors, I do something right. And also the NOC NSF recognized it, the Dutch Olympic Committee. And only a couple of weeks later, they wanted to see me, for a couple of tests. And then they told me, hey, you know what? We see Paralympic possibilities in you. And we are going to prepare you for the Olympics in Paris in 2024. Do you want to do this? And I said, yeah, I'm all in. This is what I want to start doing. And I started training 20, 25 hours a week. I live here in Limburg, so we like to eat and drink a little bit, but no longer. I measured everything, and everything needed to be perfect. And I had like 3 of these power trainings every week, and my material, my bike, needed to be like the best bike. And when I then had a race, it was normally on a Saturday and Sunday. It was very easy that the bonding with my parents was there again, because then I could bring my kids to my parents and I could race, but that was the new Bell, so I did it again. I was not used to really switch off, because I thought, hey, this is something cool, and I go for it. And before I knew it, I was again back in this mindset I've had for the last 10 years. And why on earth is it so difficult to change, to change patterns? That's incredible to do. I read a paper, a scientific study, when you change the drawers in your kitchen. You know that it will take like 3 months before you go to the right drawer in one go? Like, it's crazy. And if that works for like drawers, man, my behavior, what I maintained for the last 10 years, I just did it again, And that was sad, but the thing that changed was that I recognized it quite early, luckily. So I still train a little bit, but I have not these ambitions anymore. I just see if that will happen, if pro sports will happen for me. Most likely not when you train as much as I do now, but then it's okay as well. And I start to enjoy the climb more than I enjoy hitting the bell. And I thought about, the promises I made when I say, hey, this is the first day of my new life, and how did I want to be remembered? Those were very strong questions for me. And I went back there, and since then, and it's now like half a year ago, so fingers crossed that I will not make another mistake, but I don't think so. I live again the way I wanted to live. And I want to invite you as well to make tomorrow the first day of your new life. Why should you wait until life is giving you something that you are forced to do this? You can wake up tomorrow and say, hey, this is the first day of my new life. And I'm going to say sorry to someone I've not said sorry to for the last 2 years, because I was too angry to really do this. Or I'm going to call my parents or my grandparents or a friend I've not seen for a while, and I tell myself once in a while, like, oh yeah, that's someone I need to call as well. And I'm just going to do this simple things. So if you want to, please make tomorrow the first day of your new life, and think about what you should do different compared to today. You know, I know it's very fresh, but if there is someone who says like, yeah, I know immediately what I will start doing tomorrow after I heard this story, what I did not do today, then feel free to speak up. Okay, my glasses.
Try not to work as often as I do now.
All right. So you're going to call your employer and say like, hey, I'm not there for you.
No, tomorrow I have to go in. And not to work.
So you
during
start with an excuse on the first day of your new life?
No, but now I'm working also when I'm in lectures. I'm also always working.
Okay.
So I'll try to better that.
Okay. And you tell them as well that you
Yeah,
will
I'll
do
just
that?
put on an out of office.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Because that helps. If you change your environment or involve your environment, your friends, colleagues, whatever, into it, it makes it kind of easier. One example what I do often is connected to something you do every day. When I brush my teeth every evening, I ask myself the question, what were the 3 moments today that made you happy? It's super difficult to answer this question the first time you do this. But now I wake up and I'm switched on. You know, I live in the now because this evening I need to answer myself the question, what made you most happy today? So you better are switched on and be able to answer yourself that question. Or where are you proud of, or whatever works for you. But if you attach this to something you do already, it makes it a lot easier. Because life is full of unexpected situations. And it's up to you to choose whether you are the victim or whether you are the owner of the situation. And I would ask you to always feel yourself the owner of the situation. I've not asked about this, but I 100% own it. And that's why I'm able to enjoy life. That's why I left rehabilitation that fast. Because there is no one in the world who can solve this for you apart from yourself. And now, to make sure that you will do what you've promised, I would ask you to take your phone. Just do it. Just please help me. And think about a person you want to tell about what happened this evening here. And to tell about the change you want to drive. And send this person a text message, do you join me on a journey? That's it. Just send them, do you join me on a journey? I will not look if you really did it, but it's for you. You own your situations, I do not own your situation. So if you don't do it, okay, fine. But do it. Because this person will ask you immediately or tomorrow or whenever you see this person, hey, what about do you join me on a journey? What journey are we going to do? And then you're able to explain it. And that is where change really starts. And for those who are really active and those who see tomorrow is the first day of your new life, also think about one concrete little thing you're going to do immediately. And if you want to, make a picture of it, share it on social media, tag me in it if you want to, because I love to see what you guys do with what I try to tell you. Paul_Ramakas on Instagram, or you can find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Just Google my name and I will be there. So, it's Monday morning and I give my kids one last hug before I drop them off at my ex-place and make my way to work. And suddenly the message from last week Friday pops up in my mind. And when I drive onto the highway, I hear my phone rings, and I pick up distant and businesslike as I normally do. And I only realize now that it is the start of the rest of my life. That this was the all-changing message that I needed to have. And I'm very grateful that that happened to me ultimately. And hope you all do not need a message like this, but just start to be switched on, to open your heart, to feel what's right for you, and live life how you want to be remembered. Thank you. Sorry? Yeah, are there any questions? Also at home, I understood when you have a question, you can type it into the chat, and we're able to see it here, so that would be cool. Any thoughts or questions? Or
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for the talk. I'll try to maybe. I have a lot of thoughts, and I'll try to somehow organize them. It was a very powerful experience that you shared with us, and I can understand why this would be like an introduction into this mental well-being week, and going through struggles, and you can do it. But at the same time, I feel like it kind of gives off this like very limited perspective to how actually tough times go, and I hope you don't take it too personally, but it sounds a bit more like just smile a little, like you have depression, just laugh a little.
yeah.
So
No,
I don't know. I hope you understand. But like, how do you? I don't think, for example, as someone who's gone through some mental hardships, I don't think I could really relate to you because everything was so brilliantly positive. Did you have any moments where you did not feel like I'm the owner of the situation?
Yeah. No, I always felt that I was the owner of the situation, and thanks for the feedback, because it isn't meant to be like, oh, this is easy, because for me it was hard as well, and it's still in moments it's kind of difficult to do things. Last week, Sunday, yesterday I went swimming with my son. It's kind of difficult to swim and to start to do this. Having a physical disability is something else than a mental disability, I think, and it becomes more practical then. But the confrontation of with your own mortality, that's such an impact that everything compared to that message is easy. And there was a lot of uncertainty, and I didn't really kind of I owned it for 100%, but I understood that I can feel sad, and I can, and if these emotions are there, they need to be there, right? But that doesn't mean that you're not controlling it, that you're not control the situation, and that you don't have to deal with it because someone else cannot solve it. You can have the best doctor in the world, at a certain moment, you need to accept it, and you need to go on with it. And I really believe how deep you are, mentally or physically. If there is willpower, and if you really own the situation, you will not be healed tomorrow, but it will definitely help. So, not sure if that really answers your question, but it's not easy, I understand. There's another question.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for sharing your experience. I just wanted to say that from your experience, what I got is that it is important to step back and slow down, because most of the time we measure our value in terms of success and how rapidly we can get there. But I've been thinking that it is important to take lives at its own pace in order to be happy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely.
but it's also hard to follow its flow because like we are constantly pressured and like pushed into
Yeah.
doing more and more things.
Once you're open for it.
Sorry?
Once you are open for it, then yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I often tell to one of the group I tell it to often is like starters or people here in university as well. When you're 4, 5, 6 years old, you go to primary school and there are classes, lessons, and you need to be good in everything. And in those classes where you're not good at, we have a little conversation with mommy and daddy and how can we then fix it, because you need to be good in everything. And then you go to like your mid school, or how is it called in English, and then soon you need to choose what you want to become, and we don't want to have this MBO, how it's called in Dutch, anymore. We only want to have university students because we are a knowledge country, and we have difficulties dealing with people who work with their hands. So you need to choose that. You need to perform, because otherwise you're a nobody. You need to perform, and then you come to university, and you need to perform as well. And when you graduated, start to work 5 days a week, because hey, you studied, so we expect something from you, right? And you probably already start with a debt, so you go working 5 days a week. You need to start buying a house and finding a girlfriend or a boyfriend. And hey, you need to start working on the kids, right? Because soon you will be 30, and then kids need to be there. That's a system. And you can choose whether you go along with that system or whether you make other decisions. And both choices come with consequences. And it's super difficult to make decisions because you're always, what you also say, you're always invited to do more and to be better and to perform and have good grades, and probably your parents are stimulating you to do that as well. And hey, but it's your life. And if you decide after university, hey, I go on like a world trip for 2 years and I see what happens with me, and then I start working in a kindergarten to entertain kids, it's your life, right? But it's difficult, and it only becomes more difficult, I think, because on social media and everywhere you see the picture perfect lives from all of the rest of society, and you want to copy it. But it's hard, yeah. There was another. Oh, here.
I was wondering, because you were talking about your kids and you felt like you failed in raising your kids, but I had a dad who was never there, and I never felt like my dad failed.
And did he feel that he failed?
No, never.
No?
Because we didn't make him feel like he failed. So is that something that your environment put into your mind, or was it something you felt on your own?
Yeah, I didn't want to be remembered like that ultimately, and I always felt it. At the moment I thought like I had my career, and back then I had friends, and I had my wife and the kids, and if I choose for something, I immediately disappoint other things. So you cannot choose anymore, and that's probably the pressure I always felt, because I felt like disappointment in myself. My kids probably not, they were still young, but thanks for sharing this, because it will heal me as well a bit.
Yeah, I was like not having such an enormous like operation as you did, but to reflect it in my own life. Like with the exam week, I was studying the entire day in the library, and I loved it. And I was like, oh, I'm becoming this coffee drinking student, all-nighter. And then after the exams,
Coffee, by the way.
Sorry?
Coffee, by the way. I thought that students were like always.
Oh.
Lots of things.
Well, that kind of, no, only coffee.
Okay.
And then after the exam week, I just kept in that rhythm. And then I sat down with a friend for coffee, and we were both like, whoa, this is the outside world. We actually feel the wind in our face, and we just, like, it's such an experience, and it shouldn't be. It should be normal to go outside. And that for me was also a realization, like, okay, take your breaks. It's okay to not go the entire day. And yeah, that felt really good. So maybe not really as intense as you had, but like exams weeks, okay, super intense for me.
Yeah.
Now I can also take my moments of rest, and yeah, it was a good realization.
Happiness is in the small things, right? I never
Yeah.
saw that as well. I live at a lake and there are swans, and they had this summer they had these little swans. And I saw it, and I was sitting down there looking at it for 30 minutes. And 5 years ago, I didn't even saw the lake. So that is really a difference. Go out there. I mean, nature heals as well.
It sounds like you went from this like very like fast-paced life, like very exciting. You were like on flights all the time, and whatnot, and now it's a lot more like slow. So like, do you ever miss your old life from that or no?
Yeah. Yeah, I sometimes miss my old life, and it's a constant battle, because I decided to start to inspire and motivate and hopefully change people. And yeah, it's working in the evenings, and during daytime, I write things, and I do a lot of other things. And that voice in my head started like, yeah, but you will be bored, and now I'm at a point that I say, hey, if that will happen, let's then it's time to change things, right? Once in 6 months, I need to do this cancer scan. And the day before, I sit down, and it's quite painful, but I sit down and ask myself the question, like, hey, if tomorrow you will get the same feedback, the same message as you got 2.5 years ago, do you do what you love to do? So that for me is like a lock-in, that from time to time I just sit down and I'm able to stop things that drag me down. I'm ambitious and I'm fast and I want this, and at the same time I love to be like slow and boring and these kind of things. So this helps me again attach it to things in your life. But yeah, I miss it. The hard negotiations sometimes really cool. Yeah.
You talked about attaching your personal value to your job title in the beginning and then your athletic performance afterwards. And especially in the society, there's often the feeling that everybody needs to have some sort of value. But I was wondering, how has your relationship with personal value changed now? Do you feel like you need to still have personal value, or is it more of an abstract background thing that's just secondary to how you experience your life and relationships?
Yeah, I think that personal values, or to be valued, is important. I think that everyone likes to be like valued, obviously, but not listening to yourself and make that sacrifice in order to be loved or to be liked or to be whatever, that's something I do not do anymore. And I was bad at it in the past as well, but this is who I am, and you like it or you don't. As long as I like it, because I think self-love, that's also something we hardly talk about, but that's really most important. Because only if you truly love yourself, and that's not something egoistic or whatever, then you're able to love, to give love to something or someone else. It's still important to me, I think, but I changed it into bringing some light to others rather than bringing some money to myself.
Well, you were saying about how you didn't feel you were being a good dad for your kids, and then I was wondering, after the change and after the decisions you made, what was the feedback you got from your kids? How did they experience their new dad, or what was like something really tangible that that they said like this has changed for us, and how did that affect you?
I don't know. They were 3 and 5, so they were very young. I see them 50% of their time now, so that has changed, and I feel that our relationship strengthened, that it's better. They never told really like you were never there. What Mitch one day told me was that when I was in the hospital, he was super terrified, and he felt completely alone, and because he thought that I was super sad and that it was not going well with me, you know. So, and we had a session with someone to talk about this, and then she said, like, have you ever asked Daddy how he felt when he was in the hospital? So I said, you know, I was super happy that they could help me and that I could see you growing up and all this. So I was not sad at all, you know. And so that was the conversation we have. And, you know, I talk a lot with my kids, and still it's not a closed book. It will never be, you know. But yeah, they did not tell me like, hey, you were never there and now you were there. But I feel like in the relationship, you know, and certainly my son, he's 8 now, and yeah, he needs like a dad figure in his life, and we do cool things, at least I think. And yeah, that's something that really changed. And I feel the love to my kids now. Where first it were my kids, and I meant to kind of have a relationship, and I of course I felt something, but now, you know, don't touch my kids, because, you know, that changed completely for me. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your story. I'm curious about, you have said all about like there's external pressure and expectations of society, but for me it seems like that you also have like inner ambitions, goals like that you want to reach, and that's probably something that, well, I know for myself as well. And I'm curious, like, how do you manage to relax with that inner motivation, that inner expectations? And I mean, the external things are maybe not easy to change, but well, I think it's easier than to change the internal, motivation, the internal, like I'm optimistic, I see the next goal and I can reach that, and then I can go to the Olympics and whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you manage to balance that for yourself?
Yeah. You know, I'm already at the moon with everything I do. You know, when I start to think about something, boom, I'm there, and I dream big, and I think that's also a strength. So I try to use it in a good way now. But it was also, and still, like, fake it till you make it. You know, I need to pull the brakes sometimes and sit down and enjoy the climb, you know, enjoy the process. And that's what I tell myself often, and that's what I like now, to say, hey, it's okay that it's not perfect today. It is a process, and it's a never-ending process, and you better enjoy it today, because it was another day, you know. And there was a time that I thought I would not have any days anymore, and that's, you know, so that, but it's it's difficult. Yeah, that's why I also say, like, hey, I want to start getting bored, you know. That will be like my ultimate stage. And my end goal is that people own their lives, that people make decisions for themselves, that we're not just following whatever someone else is saying, that you make your own opinions, and that, you're free. You know? And that means a lot, because standard systems are not really designed for this. But that's what I hope.
Thank you for sharing your story. I would also have a comment. I think it's also important to acknowledge that you, of course, also come with a lot of privilege, being a cis white male presenting and having enough wealth to live a good life, and the job you described before. So I was wondering what message you'd give to people who would not share equal privilege, who are also going through similar hardships. What would you tell them to do? What would be your advice?
Yeah, it's difficult. It doesn't happen that often, but I think privileged or not, being rich or poor, or living in a good country or a bad country, what certainly does not help is looking away from reality, outsourcing your responsibility of life, and outsourcing your responsibility to make the best out of your own life. So I believe no matter how low you are, that's what you need to do, you know, own it. And it's difficult. And what I also notice also with myself, once you start to own it and you start to share it, that's why I ask you, you know, do you join me on this journey? There are a lot of more people who can really help you and it can really be there for you. And you know, I had at some moment of time 3 cars for my own and 15 watches and whatever. Money, you know, I have 20 times less now and I'm 200% more healthy. So where we relate, or happy, where we relate to in life is very fragile, I think. So, yeah, it's difficult, and I think these people need a bit more guidance, and yeah, even a life with some less privilege can be a beautiful life if you decide to make it beautiful.
I have 2 questions. One is like, what is the favorite part of your new life now that's different? And then the second one is like, why do you think there is like such a problem with people taking ownership like of their life? Like, why is it so hard for us to do that?
Yeah. I actually like this best. I really feel freedom, you know. During the day, I decide whatever I do, and I ride a lot, and I do some sports, and you know, I'm very privileged to now talk to you all, and that's the favorite part of my life. Why is it so difficult? Look at today's environment where we live in. You know, I think we live in a world where a small group of people, of systems, define and decide what you should do in your life. And if you don't, there are consequences. So you better follow, because otherwise it will be even more difficult for you. But ultimately, I feel like that outside power, non-factual, and in some cases too far, you know, because we're all people, and you can judge, and you can make your own opinions, and you can do whatever you want, even doing things against the law if you're able to accept all the consequences, right? But yeah, it's difficult because it's not stimulated, because we live in a world that is led by power, and you can only have power and keep people quiet when there is when they listen, or when there is fear, or when there is these kind of emotions. So if you are untouchable, they don't want this, you know, because then everyone will do their own thing and we will get chaos. And so somewhere in the middle there is the picture perfect world to me, but I do see like a lot of people outsource their happiness, outsource their life to others. And that's sad, because I see a lot of people 50, 60 years old, and they don't even have a clue who they are, you know. Who are you? And what do you like? Not what does your neighbor like, of the country like, or whatever. No, what do you like? I think very valuable questions.
For the process thing you told about, how did you manage to switch from this perspective of going to a goal towards just enjoying the process?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a stereotype answer or whatever. You cannot change the history, and you cannot change the future. You know, it's all about now. So I can dream, and that's also good, you know, to dream about your final state. But the only thing you can do today is what that you can do today. And this hour, only what you can do in this hour. You know, all the rest doesn't matter. You know, if you are, if there are financial problems or whatever problems, basically sitting here, it doesn't impact you. You know, you can still have them, but it doesn't change that you're here and that you can listen and can enjoy and all these kind of things. So if we are living more in the now, then you also start to enjoy the process, because I dream about where I want to be, but I also realize that I cannot really reach this today, right? But it's difficult, yeah. Certainly when I was trained to always look ahead, you know, instead of looking at now. Yeah.
Yes, I have 2 more questions, and then we're
Yeah, cool.
wrap up.
So you spoke about this life-changing experience. but we also spoke about society and pressure. How do you deal with, so your reality changed, but how do you deal with your environment? Because I can imagine your friends didn't change and yeah, the society pressure is still there. How do you deal with that? Do you feel it? And do you get, yeah. Does it take you back sometimes? How do you deal
Yeah.
with it?
No, I think, I had not a lot of people left anymore. I feel like my parents love me in the way I am, and they also saw a lot more than I thought they would see, how happy I am and all these kind of things. Yeah, I got a lot of new friends. I feel like if you start to talk about it and start to focus on a new mindset, people will join you in your life. And I have some very nice new friends where we have completely other discussions with and another relationship with than I had in the past. It was kind of transactional when there is now really like a relationship. And I also decided, this is who I am and this is who I want to be and this is what makes me happy. And if you cannot stand it, and if you don't like me, then you just go the other way, right? It's nothing to worry about. That's how I lived already in the past. That's why it was easy as well to say goodbye to. But I don't have really a lot of things that. What I feel is when I'm surrounded by people like this, and I feel like the energy is flowing out of my system, like, you're sucking me completely empty. So stop. I'm not going along with that, and I walk away, or I just tell them honestly what I think about it. Yeah.
Paul, we have one last
one, yeah.
Thank you so much. Earlier you said you were living the alpha male life. How did that perception change?
Sorry, once again?
You said you were living the alpha male life.
Yeah.
How did that perception change?
Oh, yeah, I can't tell a lot about it, but the first time I was wearing on prosthesis and going to the supermarket, behind me there was a guy like 26 years old with a tie and a jacket, and then I thought like, oh, poor him, that's a new version of myself. By the way, I'm starting to make a movie about my life and the life of a good friend of mine. He was living a wild life on a motorcycle, and he got a cycling accident, and fully tattooed, and then we're both the same person suddenly with such a different background, and then like a psychological movie. And this is how it will end, that I will look at the supermarket to the young Paul, and I say, I step out of this. I couldn't stand these alpha males for a moment, but now I just, smash through it because I know what you think. You can be like there for the other world, but no. You're just a person, you still don't know how to live life probably or whatever. I'm way more relaxed in that. Yeah. Cool. I liked it.
I hope you all liked it too. I liked it. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like for a warm applause for Paul.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. And you can have a seat now. I'm gonna give the
all
floor
right.
to someone else.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for being here, but we still have one last, as a dessert on this beautiful story. We have someone else coming to tell a beautiful story as well. And his name is Steen, and he has developed a clothing brand called Disorder. And he is shortly gonna say something. He would love to see his slides. I don't know if that's gonna work. We can give it a shot. Okay. Okay. Please all take a big breath. Take in all the information. Maybe for the people at home. No, we're not going to breathe. What does that mean? We're not going to breathe. So we're going to wrap up for our live stream. Thank you very much for being here. We hope you enjoyed it at home. People here will still get then that small dessert. And we hope to see you soon on one of the other events of the Wellbeing Movement. Great, thank you.